I'm John Batchelor, Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, major American Jewish organizations, war fighting in the Iraq Civil War and the Syrian Civil War. We welcome Danielle Pletka. Danielle is a longtime senior Senate Committee on Foreign Relations senior professional staff member for the Near East. She is right now looking at the war fighting for us because of recent reports of the Iranian Air Force operating in Iraqi airspace against ISIS targets. This is the generally same airspace where the U.S. and its allies are operating against ISIS targets. The puzzle here, Danielle, a very good evening to you. Malcolm has raised this several times on air, so I don't tell any tales out of school, that our allies in the region are unconvinced that the U.S. and Iran are the argument from Washington that we're not cooperating. It certainly looks that there is coordination. Is that non-coordination or coordination, is it effective to raise all these doubts? And if we are coordinating, why not come out and say it? Good evening to you.
Good evening. Look, I think it's a terrible idea. I think there absolutely is de facto, if not de jure, cooperation between the Obama administration and the Kerry State Department and the Iranians and the IRGC in striking ISIS in Iraq. If for no other reason, then we don't want to hit each other. It's an unbelievably dumb strategic idea, and the fact that Kerry actually came out and said he thought it was a good idea is really a reflection of how little they've thought through the challenge that we face in the region.
And yet they keep assuring us that, A, they're not coordinated, which, as you say, puts up certain dangers for our troops and for the whole effort there. And second, how could they not have known? I mean, it's quite obvious that, and we got reports and broadcast this actually before the papers broke it, because people there saw the planes and said these are Iranian planes flying over Iraq.
Well, now, of course, what we have to remind all the listeners is, well, yes, they are Iranian planes, but they're actually American planes.
That's right,
These are the
Phantom.
F-4s that we gave the Iranians back in the day when the three of us were but young people, barely dreaming what they would be used for in later times. Somebody said to me they were so gobsmacked that the F-4s were actually capable of flying, and that the Iranians hadn't simply thrown them at ISIS.
But they got the spare parts because of the relaxation, right?
They've gotten spare parts, and they've managed to jury-rig other parts. Look, the Iranians are very, very capable, but the problem is that while it may be very desirable in the short term to see them hitting a shared enemy, at the end of the day, the optics of the United States cooperating with the Shiite government in Iran against the Sunni terrorist group fuels the supposition that we are all about creating a Shiite American compact to rule the rest of the Middle East. It's stupid, it's conspiratorial, but it's very real, and more real in the minds of Sunni governments like the United Arab Emirates and the Egyptians than one would ever believe.
That's your point, Malcolm, that the allies have to presume that it's coordinated on purpose, exactly, and that the future is favoring Tehran.
The countries in the region, none of them will believe that this is not coordinated. They give us too much credit to assume that. But one of the things that we did see was a remarkable strike at an Air Force base, or near an Air Force base, by Israel, perhaps at 2 or 3 locations, which now even Syrian and Hezbollah officials are acknowledging were storage places for rockets, for other equipment. What is your sense of what happened and what the target was?
So it's clear that the Israelis were going after the delivery of advanced missiles and delivery systems to Hezbollah. They were being transported into Syria, as they always have been, and then transported by air and then delivered by road to Hezbollah. I don't think that the Hezbollahis are using them in the current fight that they're engaging in on behalf of Bashar al-Assad and Iran. I think that they're storing them up for a fight against Israel. And the Israelis have said very clearly, we're not going to let this happen. They've struck Syria a number of times. They struck a number of other countries too. We never talk about the fact that they've hit targets in Sudan a couple of times, also Hezbollah related, also Iranian supplied. They are determined not to let the Iranians give Hezbollah a strategic advantage by escalating the quality and quantity of the weaponry that they have. Good for them. A lot of people were really happy to see they did it because we don't have the guts to do it ourselves.
September 2013, within hours, the President of the United States was expected to give the shoot order to take out the Syrian Air Force. It didn't happen. However, since then, the United States and its allies, chiefly the United States, Canada, Australia, other allies, have struck against al-Nusra sites, that's al-Qaeda, and ISIS sites in Syria. And yet that Syrian Air Force still exists. Why, Danielle?
I don't understand it. For me, this is easy. It's low-hanging fruit. You know, there are a number of airports in Syria, and General Jack Keane, who I'm sure is well known to all of your listeners, and I wrote a couple of pieces in the Wall Street Journal, one this year, one last year, saying one of the first things we need to do is we need to hit these airfields. Why? Because they are the heart of resupply from Russia and from Iran to the Assad regime. And without those airfields, the Assad regime would be either forced to the table, forced to get rid of him, start losing to the victors, theoretically, of our choosing. You know, we're not choosing much nowadays, but this just seemed like such an obvious choice.
Well, one implicit conclusion is that we're the Air Force for the Assad regime. Is that true?
I never want to be in the position to say that, but sometimes the choices you don't make are as important as the choices that you do make. And the fact that we have not been willing, even though the Turks have requested us, for their own reasons, there's just no good guys left here, including us, but the Turks have put it out there that they will cooperate with us and that the price is that we need to begin to work against the Assad regime. The Obama administration repudiated an agreement that Joe Biden made with the Turks to do just that. The only inference that most people take from this is we are supporting the Assad regime.
Should we be providing the opposition then with more anti-aircraft? And how is it ISIL can find the planes, it seems, and they even take some of them, and we can't?
I beg pardon, Danielle. We only have 20 seconds. Go ahead, please.
Of course we should be providing them with the wherewithal. You have two choices in any conflict. You give it to other people or you do it yourself. I'd much rather give it to other people.
Senior Vice President for Foreign and Defense Policy Studies at AEI, Danielle Pletka, Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations. I'm John Batchelor.